My name is Pai Patel. I have been in a shipwreck.
Yann Martel dreamed up a boy and a tiger in a small boat adrift at sea.
And the winner of the 2002 Man Booker Prize for Fiction is Life of Pi by Yann Martel.
The literary world reacted with adulation. And the Hollywood treatment came next.
I need to thank Yann Martel for writing this incredible, inspiring book.
The film version scored 11 Academy Award nominations and took home 4 Oscars. Martel used that spotlight to start a controversial book club.
To Stephen Harper, Prime Minister of Canada, from a Canadian writer with best wishes.
He was convinced then Prime Minister Stephen Harper didn't properly value the arts. So in 2007, he began sending Harper a reading list, a book in the mail every 2 weeks. All the while still working on his craft. In 2010, he released Beatrice and Virgil to less than rave reviews.
You know, art's always a risk.
But now he's back with a new novel. The High Mountains of Portugal is already climbing the bestseller lists and is now the #1 best-selling book across Canada. I sat down with Yann Martel earlier in Toronto.
Why are you so fascinated by faith? Is it about the thinking, or it doesn't seem like you're into doctrine?
Well, I'm not into organized religion necessarily, although I respect some of the things that it does. It's just that I find that one of the great engines of life is faith. Not necessarily religious faith, but, you know, romantic faith, political faith, faith in a sports team. The things that people do for faith, whether it's the love of their children, the love of a person, the love of a God, I just find that really interesting. And also it's a duty as a writer to go against the current of things. And religion is not much discussed except in very cynical terms nowadays. And I do find it endlessly interesting. Even in organized religion, what they do, the ceremony, all that kind of language, it's very imaginative and it reminds me of the language of art. You know, a novel to be good, you have to suspend your disbelief. Well, it's the same thing with a religion. It's just called a different name. It's called faith.
Another theme in the book is about home or homelessness, the search for home. It's so much in the news these days, you know, people leaving Syria, leaving home,
Yeah.
people feeling like their sense of identity is threatened because there's so many Syrians arriving. How much of that global theme is influencing your thinking?
I think we all seek a sense of home, a sense of place where we feel secured. And you're in this world that's, you know, so under such dislocation. As you said, the Syrians are a perfect example of people who have to leave. And so the home that I'm talking about in the novel is not a literal home. It's more a sense of belonging. And it's hard to get to that place. You know, there's a lot of things that tear at us, that push us and confuse us. And I think faith is one thing that does center people.
This is your second novel after Life of Pi. The 13 million copies, made it into a movie, all of that, huge universal success. And then the next novel wasn't universally loved.
No.
What was that like?
Art is a gift. You give it to the world. What someone does with your gift is their business, not yours. So, so long as people read Beatrice and Virgil, then I was fine if they disliked it. And, you know, fair enough. The novel touched on the Holocaust, and some people didn't like that.
The author of Room, Emma Donoghue, she says that, you know, she never writes another huge hit, that's okay with her. Are you okay with that, if you only have one huge hit?
Totally fine. Better be a one-hit wonder than a no-hit. And I'm still so grateful for what happened with Life of Pi. It connected with so many people from different cultures, different ages. I get letters from, you know, Korean readers. I've never been to Korea. But they take on this book and it becomes part of their lives and they write to me. And it's extraordinarily touching. There's such intimate letters I get of people who really took on this story. You know, whether it's Pi or Richard Parker or whatever, that's a gauge of success. And in a sense, it's continued with the other books too. I got far fewer letters about Beatrice and Virgil, for example, but I still got letters from readers who loved it, who took it on, or who hated it, but still took it on. It influenced them. And that's what you want.
I want to ask you about your attempted book club association with the former Prime Minister. For 4 years, you sent him copies. You sent him 100 books.
In total, it was 100 books. It was a book every 2 weeks.
Why? Why did you do that?
Because I suspect, well, I remember during one election, Stephen Harper was asked what his favorite book was, and he said the Guinness Book of World Records, which I would accept from a 14-year-old boy, not a Prime Minister of our country. I just sensed a man who hadn't benefited from reading, and so I decided, what can I do as a citizen of the arts to my political leader? Well, I could suggest books that he would read, that he, if he read, might improve him. You know, the idea is that art leads to our betterment. So here was a man who I thought had a very narrow, rigid view of life. I said, why don't I open him up by sending him great books? Now, the usual excuse that people have for not reading is that they don't have time. So I sent him short books. These were great short books, under 200 pages, to sort of say, you know, this is what the word can do. If you read a novel, you will be someone else for the duration of that book, and that means you'll have led an extra life. So one perfect example was The Bluest by Toni Morrison. 12-year-old African-American girl in Ohio in the 50s, totally dysfunctional family. You read that book, you are that 12-year-old black girl for the duration of that book. So you see her life. So in other words, it opens you up. To me, there's two ways to learn about the world. You either read or you travel. And with Stephen Harper, as with George Bush, you had someone who did not read, did not travel. So I don't know how the hell he had any knowledge of our own country, of the human condition. And I think you see that in his positions. You saw a man who had ideology to push away the complexity of the world.
Did he ever respond?
No.
Are you surprised?
Yes.
Really?
I had 7
it sounds
answers.
kind of insulting to want to better somebody who's going to make assumptions about what he reads.
But he's a politician. Man, what he went through in the House of Commons was nothing compared to my letters. My letters were ironic at times. But genuinely, I spoke about these books and some topic related to the books. And yes, they were ironic, but man, compare that to Question Period. It's nothing. The guy's got a thick skin.
But you say you were sending him books to improve him. Would you like that?
But to get a dialogue. But the thing that was surprising about him not answering is if he had written back to me, I would have stopped. If I got a genuine letter from Stephen Harper signed by him saying, "Dear Mr. Martel, thank you for your books. I'll appreciate them. I'll read them when I have a moment. But I do like, Marcel Proust, by the way." As if. But anyway, then I would have shut up. I would have stopped. But I got not a single reply. You think that, every Canadian citizen writes to their Prime Minister, they get a letter back. So I got letters from his correspondence staff. But from the man himself, not a single letter. He could even have one. I got a letter from Barack Obama.
What does he say?
Well, he happened to read Life of Pi with one of his daughters, and so he wrote me a letter. I'm not even American. It's not like I have dual citizenship. Oh, he just said it was, I can't remember. It's on
nice book.
Yeah, very elegant, in his handwritten, signed by Barack Obama, saying a lovely, elegant proof of the existence of God. And it was a lovely, lovely little letter. I'm not even American. He's a foreign head of state who writes to me. Here's a man who reads, and you can see that in his oratory. You can see that in his vision.
What about Justin Trudeau? Are you sending him, the new Prime Minister suggested reading?
No, because, Justin Trudeau used to be a teacher, right? And he taught drama. So presumably at one point he read plays. And there's a bit of the actor to him. There's a bit of the man who knows how to play many roles. So already there he's delved into the arts. And because of his privileged upbringing, I guess he already has an openness.
So he doesn't need bettering?
Well, so far I don't see it in terms of books. It looks like he has read books. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he stopped reading since he stopped being a drama teacher. But I see a man who already seems to have an openness, as if he had read. So I'm not going to.
So what's next? You're writing another one already?
Absolutely not. I do one book at a time. I do have 4 children. They're 6, 4, 2, and 8 months old. So those are like 4 little Russian novels running around, developing endless plots. So I'm going to read those little Russian novels for a while. And then eventually, I guess, if I don't write for long enough, I start feeling I'm wasting my life. So I start looking for a story, and then I'll start again. But I think I'll take a little bit of a break.
It's been a real pleasure, Justin.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.